In 2025, the Trump administration launched a controversial deportation strategy targeting alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. This marked a significant escalation in Trump's efforts to curb illegal immigration. The administration claimed Tren de Aragua posed a direct threat to U.S. national security. The strategy involved a multi-pronged approach. The administration invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This act granted the president broad authority to detain and deport individuals deemed enemy combatants. The Department of Homeland Security and ICE were tasked with identifying and apprehending suspected Tren de Aragua members. However, the criteria used raised concerns about racial profiling. This strategy resulted in a dramatic increase in deportations, with hundreds of Venezuelan migrants being rounded up and flown to El Salvador. The Trump administration argued these measures were necessary to protect American citizens. The invocation of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to justify mass deportations immediately sparked legal and ethical outrage. This archaic law, passed during a time of heightened tensions with France, had been used sparingly throughout history, primarily during times of declared war. Critics argued that using this law to target a criminal organization, rather than a foreign government, set a dangerous precedent, potentially undermining fundamental legal principles like due process and habeas corpus. They argued that the act was intended for wartime situations, not for addressing domestic crime. The American Civil Liberties Union and other civil rights organizations filed numerous lawsuits challenging the legality of the deportations. They argued that the Trump administration was exploiting a vaguely worded law to circumvent constitutional protections and carry out mass expulsions without due process. The use of the Alien Enemies Act raised serious concerns about the erosion of civil liberties and the potential for abuse. Legal experts warned that this could pave the way for future administrations to target other groups based on their ethnicity, religion, or political beliefs. Central to Trump's deportation strategy was the cooperation of El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. Bukele, known for his own hardline stance on crime and controversial consolidation of power, agreed to accept the deported individuals, even though many were not Salvadoran citizens. Bukele's government had recently constructed a massive high-security prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, designed to house the country's most dangerous criminals. The Trump administration saw this facility as an ideal location to detain the deported Tren de Aragua members. The agreement between the U.S. and El Salvador drew immediate criticism. Human rights groups raised alarms about the dire conditions within the Terrorism Confinement Center, citing reports of overcrowding, inadequate health care, and rampant abuse. Furthermore, critics questioned the legality of deporting individuals to a third country where they had no ties and no guarantee of safety. This practice, known as third country removals, raised concerns about the Trump administration's commitment to international law and the well-being of asylum seekers. Section 4. International Reactions and Legal Challenges. The international community reacted with a mixture of condemnation and cautious silence to Trump's deportation strategy. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, condemned the use of the Alien Enemies Act and the agreement with El Salvador, warning of a humanitarian crisis. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR, expressed deep concern about the deportations, emphasizing the obligation of states to protect refugees and asylum seekers. The UNHCR urged the U.S. to halt the deportations and uphold its commitments under international law. Several European countries, including France and Germany, publicly criticized the Trump administration's actions, citing concerns about human rights violations. However, many Latin American countries, grappling with the effects of mass migration and facing pressure from the U.S., remained silent on the issue. The deportations also faced numerous legal challenges within the United States. The ACLU and other legal advocacy groups filed lawsuits arguing that the Trump administration's actions were unconstitutional and violated U.S. and international law. These lawsuits highlighted the complex legal questions surrounding immigration, due process, and the rights of asylum seekers. Section 5. The human cost of deportation. The Trump administration's deportation strategy had a profound human cost. Families were torn apart, leaving behind loved ones and lives they had built over many years. The The deportations instilled fear and uncertainty in immigrant communities. Many immigrants, even those with legal status, feared they could be targeted next. The human cost of these policies continues to be felt by individuals, families, and communities.